On Tuesday, Kansans turned out en masse to defend freedom, reproductive freedom, rejecting an amendment to the state constitution that would have allowed Republicans to ban abortion. With almost all precincts reporting, the count was 59% against the amendment and 41% in favor. In 2019, by the way, the Supreme Court in Kansas had deemed abortion a protected right under the state constitution. This amendment would have gotten rid of that. Thankfully, this vote failing cemented that right into place. And so there were no changes to the Kansas Constitution. The defeat of an amendment would have added to the state constitution the following. The Constitution of the state of Kansas does not require the government funding of abortion and does not create or secure a right to an abortion. Now, there's more to that, and it gets a little convoluted, but we're going to talk a little bit later about that. But first, state Republicans were very, very clear that had the amendment been approved, they were ready to completely ban abortion in that state. There are already restrictions in Kansas, including waiting periods, and a ban on any abortions over 22 weeks. Nonetheless, hey, they still wanted to go further. They still wanted to completely gut and strip reproductive rights. All right, so now, this has, again, proven to not be a popular position, which shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. That's why I'm not surprised that Kansas voters were like, no, of course, we believe in freedom. Look, the majority of the country disapproved of the court's decision to overturn Roe. Yes, it's more independents and more Democrats that support protections under Roe, but you also have, again, Kansas is a red state, and you have Republican voters that are like, oh yeah, no, I do believe in freedom. I might not like abortions, but I don't think that it's my right to order big government to tell you what to do. Look, more people strongly disapproved of that decision than those who strongly approved, because it turns out that the anti-choice position does not represent the majority of the country. That's why this amendment in Kansas does not surprise me. When you leave it up to the voters tend to choose freedom, as opposed to representatives that are from heavily gerrymandered districts that have to pander to the extremists in the party in order to win their primaries. Now, another unsurprising fact is that the turnout in this election was much higher than in normal primary contests, far higher than others in recent years. In fact, according to the AP, turnout had approached to what is typical for a fall election for governor, when turnout is actually much higher. Hey, you know why? It's because people like freedom. And being able to have autonomy over your own body is freedom. Weird how people would support that. No, not weird at all. We as Americans, we like freedom. That said, I want to go into one of the shady tactics here that were ultimately defeated in Kansas. As I mentioned, the wording here was a little odd. That led to reports of voters that were waiting in line to cast their ballots being a bit confused. Many said that while they eventually understood what they were voting on, they had to make the extra effort to figure it out. One of them, who was a Democrat, Celia Maris, told a newspaper that she had voted no on the proposed amendment and said she had to read the wording multiple times, saying, I think they need to explain it because not everybody can understand this terminology. At the same time, she said the confusion had made her want to turn out more and said, I made a point to come and vote today even more. Christine Matthews, a yes voter, said she wasn't even clear on what the amendment would or would not do. Gee, maybe she was confused and voted yes. I don't know. That's possible. Now, a Slate journalist named Mark Joseph Stern also pointed out some misleading text messages sent by anti-choice groups in order to confuse people. So they were sending these texts that said, oh, if you want to protect women's reproductive freedom, because women's reproductive freedom is under attack, so you should vote yes on this. Well, that is clear and deliberate lying. That is a clear misstatement of what this amendment would actually do. If you vote yes for the amendment, you actually take away women's reproductive freedom. But they're sending out text messages saying, no, if you vote yes, you're actually protecting reproductive choice and freedom. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And by the way, those messages are completely illegal. They don't even have to disclose the identities of the senders of these text messages. And the fact that they had to use those underhanded, dirty tactics, and they still lost, it just also reveals how unpopular this position actually is. Now remember, as I've told you before, this has never been about life. This has always been about control. And thankfully, enough Kansas voters overwhelmingly rejected the Republican control, the Republican attempt to control their bodies. Thank goodness. Very, very proud of Kansas voters. And I can tell you what, they did not expect, the Republicans, the amount of turnout for people who actually care about reproductive freedom.